My name is Susanna Maurer. I am the publicity director here at Ambassador International, and I am here today with our author, Dave Milbrandt. He is the author of Fool's Luck, which you cannot see unless I put it right in front of my face, um, which is, I'm calling it Ambassador International's political thriller of this summer. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to talk to him. Um, Possibly because I love it when we get Californian authors. As a native Californian who is an expat currently, I always like it when I get to talk to someone from my state. Um, so let's get started. Alrighty, let's see here. So, what inspired you to write this book?
Susie, thanks for the question and welcome from the Golden State over here. One of the things that inspired me, the main thing is the fact that I am married to a fellow writer. And the great thing about being married to another novelist is that we share ideas around the lunch table, the dinner table like crazy. This is our standard MO. So one day we're chatting and we're talking about what would happen if someone won the lottery and did something good with it. You know, like run for president. And light bulb moment comes on, and all of a sudden, Fool's Luck is born. And out of this, I sort of weave into create this idea. My wife encourages as always, my lovely bride encourages as always where the idea might go from there. So I have a challenge sometimes coming up with ideas. One book's done, I'm done. I'm never writing again. It was horrible. It was miserable. And then a year or two later, I'm caught into the euphoria of a new idea, and something else goes from there. This was very fortuitous as we just are sitting and talking, and this idea is born, and we kind of weave it out from there. I weave it out from there, and she encourages, like I do for her as well.
That's really cool. And I like how you described the writing process like that was horrible. That made me laugh. Uh, but no, I love that. I like that. That's fun. Okay, so why did you pick the locations that you picked for the campaign stops and the conventions?
Well, one of the things I did is I want to make it a presidential campaign, as we're talking about in the book. And to do that, they've got to go more than just my local locale of Southern California, where I was born and raised. So I put out there on social media, I tell people, hey, I'm doing a book on this. I need something that's real from your neck of the woods. Who's going to help me out? And if they volunteered, they got to be in the book. And so I picked some folks out of Wisconsin. I picked some folks out of Florida. For fun, Salt Lake City, which I picked as a convention site, I've been to a number of times on business. So I've walked the streets. I know the neighborhoods. And I was able to give a little bit of reality there. I threw in the reference to a fast casual. It's more of a regular restaurant there that does some nice, fine Mexican food. And like, well, I've been there. They have some good tacos.
Right.
And so I thought I would incorporate that, give a sense of and a flair of reality to it. But I really like to make sure my books feel real. You're from California. You understand when people talk about Interstate 2, talk about 210 freeway or Interstate 5. No, we call it the 5, we call it the 10.
Right.
That's what we call it, or the 210. So I reference In and Out. My characters go to Cantor's because it's where you get a good pastrami sandwich. It's things that are real from the area. So I like to pull things from different areas that are real and make them feel like if you are from there, that I'm not an outsider looking in. Also, the idea of a campaign is that you go to different places, you get different slices of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to feel like they were getting different parts of America, looking at America and showing it as a diverse and complicated whole as it is.
Mm-hmm. I like too that it starts in California because I feel like California often in the actual presidential elections doesn't get as much attention because everyone's like, oh, it's just going to go one way or the other. So that was kind of fun for me that it was going to be a candidate from California and it had that basis there. As someone born and raised in NorCal, that was just really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get ignored during election cycles
Yeah.
because our primaries are so late in the game. And it's kind of fun to bring that sense of someone from the land of Hollywood, make believe, if you will, trying to run it as a presidential campaign. It was kind of fun to deal with out there. I could have picked somebody from Idaho, Kansas, something like that. I don't know that as well. So I thought at least home base would be something I knew a little better.
Yeah. And I think also that it helps to remind people who are not from the West Coast that people from the West Coast are just normal people too. Like the majority of us are not movie stars. We just happen to live in California. So
we don't run them to the local Trader Joe's or Albertsons or wherever we're going to buy our groceries. We're just normal people that live 30 miles away from a big city.
Yes. Or just eat In and Out just because.
Yes.
So switching gears, how did you get the research you needed for the hospital scenes?
The hospital scenes were important to get right. I have a general medical consultant who's a friend and got some basics there, but I have a person going through an illness and I had to tap into some deep emotional issues. And
Right.
doing that, I contacted a parent of a former student. And she opened up her heart in amazing and wonderful ways to talk about some very painful and emotional things. I took that narrative, I mixed up some of the details to kind of create and flow with the narrative I had already. But a lot of that emotion totally were things that she and the family had gone through. And I wanted to make that feel real. A lot of people, when they read those scenes, have told me that's when they're crying.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are, I've done my job to reflect real emotion,
Right.
not create it on my own, but reflect real emotion people have had and to channel that into the narrative, the story that I have here and the narrative that I have here. And so those were some of the scenes that were powerful to write. Even I'm going through them. And I had my narrator who's in the audiobook, when I'm listening to him share that, I'm being moved myself. And these are things that I, along with help of other experts, have put in there.
Right.
And that stuff's powerful for me. So I'm hoping for the readers it is too.
I love that. I love the, what did you say? Reflect the emotions and not just write them. Like you didn't create them. You
No.
reflected real life experiences. And I think that is what makes a good novel is we're not recreating the wheel. We've already just like a dozen topics and a dozen themes in literature and we just go over them, but we need to reflect those real experiences. Speaking of real experiences, your story opens at the Oval Office. Have you ever been? And if not, is it on your bucket list?
Absolutely, it is. I've done the White House tour before. I've been fortunate enough to have that. I had an Oval Office tour booked. It was planned, well, in the finalizing stages. I had connections who were friends of friends for late March of 2020. And we all can do the math right now. And as that date was approaching, we were watching the news. And of course, because of the COVID lockdown, the trip got canceled, the tour got canceled. Anytime somebody wants to invite me in as a guest, I'm delighted to visit as a visitor. I don't want to be a resident or of the Oval Office, but as a visitor, I would love to go and visit it. My bucket list is to go to the office, touch the Resolute desk, and my life will be complete, at least as far as that item on the list is checked off. But yes, there's something special about that seat of power, as some called it, the linchpin of the federal penal system, kind of this idea that you're imprisoned by it, but also it's a seat of power, and I would love to visit there. The real one, not simulations that they have at presidential libraries.
Right.
Someday, hopefully, I can make that dream come true.
Right. That's I had a plane ticket from the US to no, from the UK to the US for March 19th, 2020. So I get that things ending at the end of March not happening. Um so how much faith did you decide to put into your story? I'm really curious about that.
Faith is a challenge for me, not because I don't have any, I have a great deal, but what is my writing like here? And as I grow as a writer, I tend to put less of the overt faith in there and more of the subtle and intertwined faith in there. As I put it with characters here, I read people like Davis Bunn and Charles Martin, and some of their writing is much more subtle, much more low key, some might say, and much more real and interwoven. And so my first book, Chasing Deception, there's a conversion story. It's a flat out conversion story. And there's faith growing in those characters through undue pressure and running. But for the standalone book, Fool's Luck, Miles Bradford is wrestling with issues, like a lot of us do. He has been burned, had some negative experiences, and he's trying to wrestle with God, particularly during the medical drama, which we've referenced. Where is this God during times of trouble and chaos and worry? And so I decided to keep it more subtle here. We have his wife, Lauren, who checks him on his faith issues there and makes him think about some things too. And even as I look at my next project, which is still in my head, that might be even more subtle, where we have more wrestling and more questions asked, because I think it translates well with readers where they wrestle with and their own experiences in lives. Even if they have faith and are people of faith there, we still have lots of questions. And for those who are not or not yet, there are lots of questions they have too. And I want to connect with the widest possible group of readers, but also through their experiences to try to share with them that we all struggle with these questions, whether there is an ultimate power in the universe, why bad things happen, and other issues like that.
I like that. I like the weaving it into the narrative and making it a natural part of the journey. I remember in high school at a Christian high school, my creative writing teacher was like, don't sledgehammer this in. Like I saw you just like sledgehammer that in. It was the first thing she said was to weave it naturally. And I think it takes skill, but if you do it right, it gives you that wider audience, which is what we want. Yeah, I like that he's wrestling with it. I really like that. Okay, speaking of challenges, what was the most challenging part of the writing process?
For me, writing is a very interesting process. I don't recommend my process to anybody. I'm a school teacher. And so usually about 1 month a year, I get off that is clean and clear. If I'm going to write a novel that summer, it's 30 days in a seat, 8 hours a day.
Oh no.
Don't do this. This is bad for you. This is bad for your back and other parts of your body, as well as your mental health. So this time I did it during COVID, the pandemic. I had time. I was writing. The writing wasn't a challenge. I'd get in my zone. I'd put in my music. This year, for this book, it was the Poldark soundtrack, which is my writing music this time. Downton Abbey's been in the past. The next book, who knows? So writing was fine. It was good. I was in that zone. The editing process, particularly at this time, I had the privilege of working with Ambassador and a traditional publisher. I was working with an editor who had, perhaps, at least from my mind, a bit more clout and say. And so I'm starting to argue as I'm doing the editing process, does this passage that the editor doesn't like necessary? Do I need to keep this? Is it necessary for the storyline? My pride and my ego says they're all necessary. Let's be honest, some of them are not. So when do I make that decision to say cut, or even harder to say, no, we're going to keep that, and here's my reasons why.
Right.
So growing as a writer, I have to judge that and say that sometimes some of my brilliant ideas aren't really as brilliant as I think they are. And sometimes they're worth fighting for. When do I make that call? That's a tough measurement to make.
I just was checking the book to see if I knew the editor, and I didn't know that one. But yeah, I think that's actually the best part of the editing process. And that's my favorite part to see, is watching authors defend their reasoning. And sometimes it helps them be like, oh, I should have included this, because you have the book in your head. Like, you know the backstory, you fleshed it out many more layers than you've probably written down. And so that question, that like challenge, I think really helps authors. You just have to get through the uncomfortableness of being like asked those questions. And as editors, we have to get through the process of asking those questions and not being like, I'm going to write this book my way, but asking it and shaping it. It's a fun process. It's exciting, but I think it's kind of, I've heard it's emotionally draining sometimes, because it's like your baby. You created it, you made it, and then we're just like, but I think the finished product ended up being fantastic.
And let me add to that. I'll give you two sections. One section that I fought for was talking about the political convention. And the editor said, well, is it disrupting the narrative? And I fought for that one. One part that I was frustrated with, but I got a really good recommendation on, was the ending. The ending is completely different. In that it went into much more depth of the characters and written certain scenes. And the editor said, you should do this. I'm like, I don't want to rewrite the ending, please, no. I rewrite it, and everyone that reads it says, oh my gosh, it's a great ending. Wasn't my original plan, but with the partnership with the editor I had from Ambassador, I really had the chance to kick that off and to create something that I wouldn't have come up with. And I love that partnership there, that we could work together and weave that ending together, and that was nice.
Yes, I like that you're describing it as a partnership. That's a good thing.
And it really is, yes.
So, taking on to that topic, what is the biggest difference between self-publishing and then traditional publishing?
In the self-publishing or indie publishing business, we have control of deadlines. We are in control of the process. And that feels so wonderful. My big heart loves that. I control when the book comes out. I can control the design and cover and all that here. The challenge is I have to control that. Mm-hmm. I have to be in charge of that. And I have a good graphic designer for my other books, and she does a great job. But I'm in charge of the deadlines and the design and everything else here. And with traditional publishing, I have a chance for a publisher to do that here. The deadline for this book, the release date for this book, got changed significantly for me. But it got changed in a way where I actually had the time during the summer to put it out. And it's awesome. We kind of struck while the iron was hot. The cover design, which I love, it was the first draft.
Yeah.
We made a couple of tweaks, the first draft, and I went, whoa, that's it. I was excited for it. So the marketing part and hanging out with folks like you and others here, that has been done for me.
Mhm.
Now I'm doing a lot myself because I want to make sure that I get a lot of marketing, a lot of buzz for the book.
Yes, and you are awesome at that. By the way,
Thank you.
you're fantastic at that.
I've done a lot, but I really appreciate how people that come alongside me and help me take that to the next level. It's not just me; it gets amplified through other voices. That's
Yes.
so important.
Yes. And I think that is kind of the role of traditional publishers, because a lot of people still nowadays go like, why traditional? And it's so we can amplify it, have a bigger partnership, and just sometimes guide and help. Like, hey, let's release a novel during the summer because that's when they're most popular, types of things. Um, what is it like to turn one of your novels into a screenplay?
It is interesting. You talk about something being your baby. I'm a guy, I can't have them. But then, from what I've talked with some other writers, it does feel like the novel writing process is similar to having a child in that you have this glory and wonder that you're going to write a novel. It's beautiful and lovely. You spend several months putting it together. All of a sudden, it gets released to the world, and you never want to do this thing again. Oh my gosh, it's horrible and painful. Until a year or two later, you fall in love with the euphoria of the idea, and out comes another one. Well, this is my baby. This is everything in it is wonderful. We're going to write a screenplay where you're going to take it, hack it, chop it up, dice it, and put it in different formats. No, it is my baby.
Right.
The lovely thing is, I'm working with a writing partner who said, okay, if you ever have a problem with this, we don't have to do this project. It's okay. Are you comfortable with this?
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate the right to feel that way. And so I've had to work through some thoughts, and we've gone through several drafts, and it's been revised. And it's kind of funny. It was going a different direction. Now we're revising back to more what the original storyline is. But the movie is a movie. The book is a book. They are different. Lord of the Rings fans will tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the movies. I didn't really dig into the books. I know it's apocryphal to say that.
I don't like the book either because it gives me nightmares, whereas I can watch the movie all day long.
Right. But, the last half hour of Return of the King is the most magical thing I've ever seen on film. It's just beautiful. And so the movies interpret differently. And I have to realize that the movie is a different vehicle.
Yeah.
To get some ideas out there and, hey, say, based on a novel, you go buy that novel. I get a couple extra sales, but I get to tell a different story, and it gets to come to life. Like, again, with the audiobook that we're waiting to have released out there on Audible, the voices of the characters in the book came to life through voice.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine with undue pressure, when we're able to actually get and start filming,
Mm-hmm.
or working on final drafts of the screenplay, what the characters will look like, how they will be embodied, how they will be different, but their own individual characters. That's going to be fun. Yeah. That's just going to be flat out fun.
I'm glad you're describing it as fun. I like that. You and your wife are both writers, and as we discussed that, how do you guys support one another in the creative process?
Writing is a very difficult business. It's a great question, and it's one that is fraught with trouble and challenges along the way. I like to say, since my wife is in development, my bride's in development of her book, she's learning from all my mistakes. And I've made plenty. My first draft of my first novel was written in 98. It took me 15 years to get it publishable.
Oh my goodness.
I had a stack of rejection letters this thick. They're the best and the brightest, the worst and the not so brightest. They all rejected me. And I'm used to it. And I got used to it, and I got used to the pain, but my wife was still by my side saying, I believe in you. I support you. I encourage you. And she's willing to call me on my stuff, on saying that's not good in a story. That's junk. Get rid of that. Cheesy. Or she'll put a smiley face or a cry face and things like that. And I'll read through her stuff, and I'll encourage her, and I'll say, you can do it. It's okay. Sometimes I'll say, are you sure you want to do this? What am I going through? But she says, yes, she wants to. So I'm there to encourage her. She's there to encourage me. Without that, and I have friends that, don't have as much support, writing is a lonely, lonely business. Mm-hmm. And often it's without a lot of affirmation. And that 1-star review determines your whole day.
Mm-hmm. I've gotten the emails from writers who got a 1-star review. And yes, it does.
It's horrible. Or the one person who said my first book was really good at sharpening knives. I think it was a review for the wrong product. But, I sort of stuck with it and saying,
so bizarre. Okay,
maybe that's what she's actually doing with my book and sharpening her knife. And I have these sort of odd fantasies. And my wife's like, oh, relax. Yeah. So my, as I always call her, my bride points me in the right direction. And I try to do the same for her. And we help each other out.
Oh, that is so sweet. I like the relax. That cracked me up. Your book is about a teacher who wants to run for president. You're a teacher. Do you want to run for any office?
Oh, I don't want to be president. I don't want to be president. Oh, I have seen what happens to these candidates here. Get involved at the local level. Sure, someday. I do some stuff with campaigns. Those are fun. I enjoy helping out people spread their message and ideas. But it's bad enough when it's your neighbors and people you know. That's challenging, but you can rise above if you wish to. When it's 330 million people that control you all over social media,
Yeah.
no,
No.
no, 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 no.
No.
You either have to be insane or a narcissist or both, or really full of oneself to run for those offices
Yeah.
because of the challenges you face in that process. I am not so blessed slash cursed. It's just not who I am. So I like to watch from afar. My story has some Mr. Smith Goes to Washington elements into
Mhm.
it, and it jokes about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, the naivete of the candidate, which is kind of fun. But I might want to be along for the ride and along for the show, but I don't want to be in the center ring. Nah,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Well, and I also think that shows a lot of realism and I guess insight to the madness that is an election, even in the United States where we're blessed to have the system of government that we have. It's still madness and it still looks like the most awful experience ever. So I'm with you. I'm with you there. You didn't ask me, but I'm with you.
Smart.
Um, do you
And I
have
have a
any?
political consultant that I use for the book, and
Ooh,
he's been to a convention, he talked about the process, and he is, reminding me of some of the challenges there too. So it's not just what I see. He's
yeah,
been in the trenches, he's been to a couple of conventions, he's seen the madness.
yeah,
And that helps me realize that, yeah, from all angles, like you said, it's just scary.
yeah. I'm trying to see if that's the wind or my children yelling. We have the wind here. Over here in the UK, we keep our windows open. And so that's the wind coming in. Do you have any last words for readers, for authors, for listeners? Any like tips for the road or anything they can like write down and highlight?
Sure. I would argue for authors, one thing I like to encourage is to read widely, to read the people that you like to go and grow in your reading here. I read Christian authors, I read a lot of non-Christian authors, and I like to pick up different pieces and elements from them. I get enamored with people like Khaled Hosseini or Kristen Hanna's The Nightingale. I liked it better than All the Light We Cannot See. I know it's apocryphal, I don't care. I loved it and I thought it was beautiful. Um, I like to read different people and pick up and glean different things, learn things not to do.
Right.
I was reading a very formulaic book recently and I kept reading it to see if it got better. It did not. It just did not. And I'm not going to say names because,
Right.
they'll say that about me, but to
Right.
grow in your writing and
Right.
to realize that you evolve, if we can use that word, we mature as authors is perhaps a better word for some. And my writing today is not what it was like before, and it's not what it'll be like on the next project. That's okay.
Right.
And you need to market yourself to who your readers are going to be. It might be in the realm of Christian fiction where I am currently. My next book might be general market. I don't know if they're ready for the amount of questioning I'm going to have. Maybe they are.
Mhm.
I write for who I write for. Whether my audience looks like me or does not, I try to engage as many people as I can. Some will love, some will not. Some say it's the perfect blend of politics and family. Others said, I read all the politics stuff because I had to, but I really like the family stuff.
I saw
Others
that
are going to say, I read
review.
the family stuff, but I really like read the politics stuff, but I really like the family stuff. And I am who I am. My voice is my voice. It's going to blend both. Hopefully readers will read one part and accept it while they get to the other part and enjoy the combination of the two.
Right. I like that. I think reading widely is huge, and I think you can tell when you read authors who have not read widely.
Yes.
And you can tell that from a book level, you can almost tell that from an essay level. Sometimes you can tell that from just like a Facebook post level. And I think that is a huge, huge thing that we all need to do. We all need to read widely, and it will make us better.
And
Dave,
one final thing I was going to jump in, encourage others.
yes.
Encourage others around you that are in the process. Hold their hand, help them through. And I think that's the biggest thing I can say to other writers. You get encouragement, take it. You give encouragement to others and share that too. That's how we grow as a community.
That is a really healthy mindset. I am down for that. I love that. I love
Awesome.
seeing writers come together in writers workshops and building ideas and just encouraging one another because like you said, writing is really lonely and publishing in the 21st century is surprisingly competitive because everyone thinks they can write something. And so everyone I think really needs that encouragement and that growth so they can mature, like you said.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This was really fun. This was really enjoyable. Everyone, Fool's Luck. I always call it Fool's Gold. It's not Fool's Gold.
It's
That's the
not.
Californian in me. It just calls it Fool's Gold. Fool's Luck is available wherever books are sold, on Audible soon. It's a beautiful book. It belongs on your bookshelf. I have it on mine. I hope you will pick it up someday. All right, everyone. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.